Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Maxine and I like to teach people how to sew and draft patterns. So today's project is an upcycling project. It's a thrift flip. So I've got this men's shirt that I'm going to turn into a corset blouse. I was inspired by this really cool picture I found while I was browsing on my Pinterest, and I thought I have to make something like this. So today I'm going to show you how I'll be turning this men's shirt into a corset blouse. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell. So there's a couple of things that I want to change on this shirt. So because it's so big, I need to change the collar and just some tweaks here and there, but let me try it on just to show you what the before will look like, and then I will guide you through the process on how I'm going to change this. So here is the shirt, and as you can see, it is huge, so I'm definitely gonna have to do some alterations to the fit. I don't want to go ahead and just cut and use it as it is because it's going to be too oversized. I like the oversized look for the top, but not this much. It feels like I'm drowning in this, but I needed the extra large for the extra fabric to make the corset, obviously, so I needed to go with the biggest size possible. So I will be cutting this here in the middle, and I'll be using the rest of the fabric for the corset. I'll probably have to end up using a different fabric for the lining. We'll see how much fabric I've got to work with. So yeah, we'll see when I've got that cut. And I'll be taking the sleeve in and altering the collar to make it a bit more fitted. And then obviously I'm going to cut the corset and add the corset onto. I'm going to start by measuring where I want the corset to start. So I do want some of the fabric to go slightly over the corset. So I'm going to measure to about here. So I would say about, how much is that? About 5 centimeters under the pocket. So once I've got this cut off, then I'm going to start with the alterations of the shirt first, and then I will cut the corset. So I just start by drawing a line where I want to cut the shirt, and then I measure both sides, making sure that it's even, and then from there I'm going to pin it, and then I'm going to cut it off. It's always nerve-wracking cutting through a ready-made garment, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. And then I am starting to unpick the collar because I need to take in the collar. So I'm just going to open up the front, and then I'm going to take off about 1 or 2 centimeters off the front, and then I'll be re-sewing that back on. I have measured where I want to take it off, so I'm just going to cut it off, and then when that's cut off, I'm going to re-sew everything back together. Usually I would sew it first and then cut, but in this situation, to save some time, I'm actually just cutting and then I'll be sewing everything back together. I've got the collar taken, and as you can see, it already looks so much better. So like that. Now I want to take in a little bit of the sleeve over here, so just a little bit. I'll be starting from the cuff and just blending it slightly so the underarm, I can get rid of a bit of excess fabric over here. My workroom is an absolute mess. I've got patterns everywhere and just so much going on, and as you can see in the back, I'm busy working on another gown, so stay tuned for that. I will be posting that one soon as well. It's an evening gown, a couture evening gown. So now I'm a lot happier with the fit of the shirt now, so now I can carry on with the corset. So with the pattern, I've got another video up. I will link the video down below where I show you how to draft your own corset belt pattern. So it's really easy, so you can do that and then use that same pattern to turn this shirt into the corset blouse. Now I've laid out my corset pattern pieces. So now as you can see, there's not enough left for the lining. So I'll be cutting the outer layer out of the shirt fabric, and then I'll be using another cotton for the lining. So we're going to cut the outer layer, lining. Both pieces need fusing. Some people call it violin, other people call it interfacing, whatever you call it. We're going to fuse both the outside and the lining. So I've gone ahead and traced all the panel pieces off, and then I'll be cutting it out. I always recommend tracing your pattern pieces off first and not just pinning it to your fabric. You just get a more accurate transfer of the pattern if you do it this way. So with the interfacing, I have chosen a cotton interfacing, and the lining is also a cotton, so the whole garment will stay a nice breathable cotton. So when everything is cut out, we're gonna iron on our fusing pieces, and then from there we can actually go ahead and sew everything together. Yeah, I've got the outer layer sewn up completely, and now we're just gonna test it and make sure that you are happy with the fit. So it's easier to do alterations now before the boning is in. When the boning is in, it's quite difficult to do changes. So try it on and see that you're happy with the way it fits. If you are, then you can go ahead with the boning. And then as you can see, I'm measuring boning. I'm just using normal Regleen plastic boning for this. I want the shirt to stay more of a casual blouse. That's why I'm using the plastic boning over here. And as you can see, I'm just melting the edges just so that the edges don't poke through the fabric and damage the corset. You can also use a small piece of fusing and just iron that over the edges if you want. And you can also use steel boning, whatever you prefer. So now I'm sewing the boning into a seam first, and then from there I'm going to top stitch on the right side of the fabric. This just makes it a lot neater than just actually stitching right through all layers. When that is done, then you can pin the outer layer and the lining together, and then we're going to sew the center back on 1 centimeter and then turn it so it's right sides together and sew the bottom, so basically the hem. Make sure that you leave the top open for now and just sew the bottom on 1 centimeter. When that is sewn, then we're going to top stitch the lining. So the side where the boning is, we're going to do a small stitch, just top stitching that down. That'll just help keep that edge nice and smooth. Now the top edge that we left open, we're going to iron down on 1 centimeter. So both edges, iron them down nice and crisp. So nice and clean seam, iron them so that they're both covering each other. Now we can go back to our shirt, and then we're going to find the center back on the shirt. Draw a line 15 centimeters long and then cut it. And then we're going to take some excess cut off fabric and then draw a binding. The binding measurement that I cut was 4 centimeters by about 35 centimeters. Then I'm going to go ahead and iron both sides in on 1 centimeter. When we've got everything ironed, then you can go ahead and sew the binding in. So this is what your binding should look like in the end. This will just help you get in and out of the shirt easier. Then from there, we're going to pin the front together, and then we're going to do 2 rows of basting stitches. So we're going to gather that hem now. Make sure that you gather it to the same size as what's at the corset opening, and then we can go ahead and tuck that in between the outer layer and the lining of the corset. Make sure that the gathering is even all the way around. So now I'm just pressing holes for the eyelets. If you don't have an eyelet tool, you can even just make loops. Loops will work just fine, but I prefer the eyelets as they are stronger. I use a 6mm wide eyelet for this corset. So yeah, I've got the shirt. So at the moment I feel like it looks a little bit too separate. So I feel like the shirt just looks like a shirt and the corset just looks like a corset, but it doesn't have one piece. So I've got a piece of the button stand over here, and I'm thinking if I sew this onto the corset, it'll help bring the corset and the shirt together as one piece. So it looks a little bit more streamlined, if you get what I'm saying. Because at the moment it just feels too separate. So I'm going to pop this on the mannequin, pin it, see what it looks like. If it does look better, then I'm going to sew this on. If not, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Let's see. Thank goodness for this mannequin. It's always so difficult trying to do fittings on yourselves. So I feel that this looks a lot better. I'll be sewing some buttons on as well. And then I'm thinking of taking away a little bit of the bulky fabric over here. So now I'm just top stitching the button stand onto the corset. Ideally, I would have liked to have this piece sewn in before I attach the lining, but sometimes, as you know, things don't always work out as we plan, and then we have to do last minute alterations. But here is the finished product. Let me know what you think. In hindsight, I do feel that I should have maybe taken in a little bit more around the top, but I do like that the back is a bit more covered, that you don't see the eyelets immediately. Let me know your thoughts on this project and let me know what you want to see next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.